Welcome to Bionic Life. My name is Kevin, and today I want to briefly share my experience in getting my Part 107 certification, or also known as drone license, with the FAA. In order to run a drone or to operate a drone for monetary gain, and most people think that might be inspections or taking pictures, apparently it also extends to YouTube. And the fact that you may or may not want to become monetized is kind of irrelevant. I think they look at the fact that YouTube's making money off this, so the drone is being used commercially. So you have to have your 107 license to use drone footage in videos, apparently. And this is my understanding. I might be wrong on that, but I know people get contacted if somebody reports them because they've been using drone footage in their YouTube videos. I have a little bit of an aviation background. I've built and flown ultralights. I used to hang out with pilots and at the airport all the time, at a county airport, go up in gliders, fly in experimental aircraft, that kind of thing. And a lot of the stuff in this test, you sort of almost pick up via osmosis. And a lot of the content in the test probably hasn't changed from the early days of the FAA. And when I started jumping into aviation stuff, it was in the 90s. And we had I don't know if they still do it, the Ohio Department of Transportation used to put out air directories and airport directories, that type of thing, maps, all that kind of stuff, sort of like sectionals. I have a Detroit sectional floating around here. I don't know where it is, but I do have an Ohio sectional that was put out by the Ohio Department of Transportation back in, I'm thinking it was mid-90s. So I have a little bit of a background in aviation, and I thought the test would be pretty easy. So I had the drone, I didn't have the testing completed or the license. So I looked into it about a week and a half ago. It was a Thursday. I went ahead and scheduled and paid for an exam in a location in Erie, Pennsylvania, and quickly realized that the following day was our anniversary. I don't know about you, but I think I would rather be in trouble with the FAA than my wife, so I went ahead and quickly canceled. The charge never hit the credit card, so that there's no drama, anything there. I looked at other testing facilities within my region, and I found one in Cleveland, Ohio. So I went ahead and scheduled that for the following Tuesday. So scheduled the test on a Thursday for the following Tuesday. So that gave me basically 4 days to kind of overview things, and something that I thought I was pretty comfortable with. I've used sectionals, I kind of understood airspace. What I didn't understand was all the MEDARs and TAF reports and all that kind of stuff. So channels like the Tony and Chelsea Northrup, that was a great video. That I watched that probably Friday and Saturday several times. I had it playing in the background while I was doing some stuff. Then I watched a Better B-roll one, and that was pretty good. And a lot of that stuff is very, very relevant. A lot of that stuff hasn't really changed probably since the early days of the FAA. It felt like I was missing something. It felt like I was missing like night flying. I wasn't sure I understood night flying. So I started looking online or on YouTube for some of that stuff, and I came across a channel called The Drone Coach. Now the Drone Coach, I quickly realized there were some areas that I lacked. So I found the Drone Coach channel the Monday night before the test, so I started listening. I had it playing even as I went to bed in my earbuds. I listened to it on the drive, and I passed the test with an 87%. Not terrible, but not great. So the areas I lacked in, I felt, were the remote ID. I feel like I lacked in operating over people, because I didn't realize that was now permitted with certain restrictions. I heard that night flying was okay, but you had to have the appropriate lighting on the aircraft. The Drone Coach really helped. If I hadn't listened to that, I don't think I would have passed the test. As soon as I passed the test, I submitted my application to the FAA that within a couple hours, and I was quickly received the temporary airman certificate. And then also realized you have to register the drone. So it does not matter whether your drone is 249 grams or less than 0.55 pounds. If you're going to use it under Part 107, the drone has to be certified. It's kind of freeing because the drone is now, doesn't matter how much it weighs. I can put lighting on it, prop guards, whatever I need, and still fly the drone without a problem. I can use heavier batteries, it's not an issue. Now, of course, you're limited within the actual capabilities and design capabilities of the aircraft itself, but it's pretty freeing knowing I don't have to worry about any of that. So I would say the testing facility, the scheduling part, was not a big deal. It was pretty easy. Go online, submit your credit card stuff. Even if you had to reschedule right away, it didn't hit the credit card, so I wasn't issued a coupon code or a credit or anything like that when I had to make that scheduling change. I canceled that appointment. I immediately scheduled another one, and it was only billed for the second scheduled test. So then, arriving at the facility for the testing on testing day, if you've never taken a standardized test that's administered by an entity that's contracted with the state or the federal government, they are pretty strict. You basically, anything you take in with you outside of corrective lenses and that type of thing, or a calculator for the airman certificate, it's a 4-function calculator, it has to go in a locked zip bag. They take your name, make sure your ID matches, all that kind of stuff. You go into the room, you sit in your little box, your cubicle, and you take your test. Now, our facility, I found some of the staff, one in particular, to be quite rude, but the other staff members were fine. Once you're in the room, I don't know why, but the facility I was in, the temperature was pretty warm. They ended up turning a fan on. I think a few people said something. It wasn't humid or miserable. It was just warmer than it seems like most education facilities would be. I feel the 2 hours that they allow for the answering of 60 questions in my situation was fine. I finished my test in about an hour. You can mark the questions you feel like you had a little bit of a problem with, and I did that for review after I was finished with the rest of the test. I think I missed 6 or 7 questions, and I don't think it would have mattered how long I spent on those questions. I just didn't know the material, and that would have been in the operations category. I'm gonna look through. I did get the results. I'm gonna look through the regulations that are noted where the questions or the content came from. I'll put a link for the videos that I used. I'll put a link for the testing center and the 2 FAA links for registering your temporary airman certificate and your knowledge base exam, as well as the registration for your drone. To wrap it up, it was not a super difficult test, but that said, I do have a little bit, while I never took my general aviation or private pilot or recreational pilot or sports pilot or any of that, but I was around it quite a bit. I've used sectionals to make cross-country flights in my ultralight to different flying events and fly-ins and pancake breakfasts and that type of thing. I'd never read a METAR report or a TAF report, anything like that, and that's kind of, getting used to the lingo and the abbreviations and the coding that they use for these reports was kind of a little bit of a challenge. The other thing I found is they do try to trip you up. The way they word the questions, you really have to read them and let it register with you. I think I have a little bit of a dyslexia, and I've always had that. So I really had to stop, recognize that, hey, I can't just read through this in one time and think that I understand what it means. So you just have to keep reading it and rereading it. And I did that on some of the more in-depth questions. All in all, it was pretty painless and actually a little bit freeing. I'm not a fan that you have to pay a tax to be able to use something. But and that's what I look at that $5 for 3 years as a tax, and it's more of a principle-based thing. But it wasn't terrible, and I look forward to including some of the footage in future videos. And if there's anything you'd like to see, within reason, I'm going to try to keep anonymity, so I'm not going to put out personal information. But if there's anything you'd like to see or a shot, let me know. I'd like to know where to start with that. Thanks for watching. If you like this content, please give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, please subscribe.